Hello everyone, welcome to this video that is brought to you by Ipmat by LPT. Guys, in today's video, we are going to have a quick and a brief look in terms of what is the VARC syllabus when you talk about your Ipmat preparation. So let us not waste any more time and let us get started. Now, when you talk about the VARC section for your Ipmat examination, no matter what exam you are targeting, just understand that the pattern of the questions may change slightly, but most of the time the core topics or the core concepts remains the same. So when you talk about the VARC syllabus, remember one thing, there are 4 broad areas that we are looking for. So you will definitely have questions of vocabulary, you will definitely have questions of grammar, you will also have reading comprehension, which is again very important nowadays, and you also have critical reasoning questions, although not all examinations ask you critical reasoning questions. So let us understand quickly as to what are the topics that you have to discuss. Now, when you talk about reading comprehension per se, understand here something very clearly, which is it's about understanding the question types within RC. So RCs is simply like unseen passage that you would have done in your school, but now what you're going to deal with is it has got fact based questions. So सबसे common questions जो आप देखते हो RC के questions में is fact based questions. Then you have inference based questions. Now understand something important, that this year in Ipmat Indore's paper, the weightage of RC increased from 12 questions, that was 2 passages, to 3 passages with 18 questions. So now the focus and the weightage of RC has gone up here. So just make it a point that you are working hard on your RC skills. Then you have got main idea and central theme questions that again comes down a part of an RC. So these are the question types. Sometimes you get author's tone and attitude. Also within RC you have got vocabulary based questions. So within the RC they can ask you vocabulary questions, and sometimes you have got truths and false statements, not very popular, not very seen in these examinations, but you may have a possibility that it could be a question type. So as far as reading comprehension is concerned, these are the question types that is something that you will have to deal with. Now when you talk about the passage types per se, so what are the kinds of passages that you see in RC? So you have something coming from social issues, philosophy, economics, business, psychology, current affairs, literature based passages. So remember one thing, as far as reading comprehension is concerned, the passages could be from any domain, they could be from any realm. It is just that you have to train yourself in such a fashion that no matter where the passage comes from, you are able to answer the questions. The second thing that I was talking and referring to is again vocabulary questions. So mostly tested indirectly in Ipmat. Now what are the question type? The most common question type that you see is synonyms and antonyms, although Ipmat Indore does not give you any question of synonym and antonym because they are very simple and easy to answer. Now what generally happens there is you get questions of word usage and contextual meaning. So these are the more frequent type of questions that you see in Ipmat Indore. In other BBA entrances, you will have a questions of synonyms, antonyms, word usage, contextual meaning, and sometimes you do get analogy questions which form a part of most of other examinations that you are looking after. Then of course you have grammar questions. Again, as far as your Ipmat preparation is concerned, understand something very clearly, that most of your questions, the huge chunk of questions come from vocabulary and grammar. So in the entire set of questions, most of these questions are centered around these areas. So you get grammar questions. Now within grammar questions, not deeply tested in Ipmat Indore because they are not going to give you question that is directly rule application based, but it's more like the usage based question that we are looking for. So not deeply tested in Ipmat Indore, but more in Rohtak and JIPMAT. So other examinations like Ipmat, Rohtak and JIPMAT examination, they do give you questions where you have direct application of the grammar concepts. So key topics that you see in grammar is subject verb agreement, pronouns, modifiers, prepositions, articles, parallelism, conjunction, sentence fragments and run-on sentences. So most of the time when you talk about Ipmat Indore's paper, the questions there are something which is more usage driven more than the rules in context. So that is something you should be very careful about. Next, we talk about critical reasoning questions. Now, critical reasoning questions also form a part in terms of other examinations. So, sometimes you get questions of parajumbles. In fact, IPMAT Indore does give you 5 questions of parajumbles out of total questions of 45 questions. So, you get critical reasoning questions like parajumble questions. You also have questions like paragraph completion. So, you have assumption questions also coming up, statement assumption, statement conclusion, strengthen and weaken the argument, courses of action, logical consistency. So, not very frequently asked, but it is again something that may be tested in your examination. So, you would do yourself a favor if you better prepare yourself for these topics. Now, with regard to exam wise focus, let me also tell you what these exams exclusively focus on. Now, when you talk about IPMAT Indore, which is the most important paper that you are looking forward to, so you have RCs which are slightly heavy and they have a higher difficulty level because most of these questions are inference based questions. Then you get parajumble questions. Out of 45 questions, there are up to 5 questions that comes down from parajumbles. Then you have, of course, vocabulary in context. So they don't give you mere synonyms or antonyms based question, but they give you more in vocabulary in context. Then you have grammar. This is more like usage driven than the application or the direct application of rules. And then you have got RCs which give you tone and inference questions which are far more common than any other exams that you can actually talk about. So as far as IPMAT Indore is concerned, it's more deeply focused on your comprehension and your reading skills rather than direct application of certain rules or concepts. Now, when you talk about IPMAT Rohtak, now this is slightly on an easier side as compared to IPMAT Indore. So, lot of questions on grammar rules. So, direct application of rules is something that you look into it. Then you have direct vocab questions. So, questions like synonyms and antonyms, plus analogy questions, one word substitution questions, and any other question pattern that you may have which relates to vocabulary is frequently asked. CR and reasoning, IPMAT Indore does not give you exclusive questions of CR there. It is just parajumbles and para completion, but Rohtak and JIPMAT, they do give you questions of critical reasoning, statement, assumptions, courses of action, strengthen and weaken and so on. Fill in the blanks question, that is vocabulary in context. So they give you a sentence and they ask you for the words that can fit in. And sometimes you also have got sentence correction questions. So sentence correction questions as in the error spotting questions or correcting the wrong parts of a sentence where you have these options given to you and then you have to choose one. So these are the grammar questions that you see about. As far as JIPMAT is concerned, now the difficulty level is of course low to moderate because it's not a very difficult paper. Direct grammar, synonyms, antonyms, CR basics, RCs, short and factual. Now because JIPMAT is a slightly easier examination, the topics are not too dense, they are not too heavy. It is just that if you have worked sincerely on your IPMAT preparation, JIPMAT questions would be something that would be easy for you to attempt. And last but not the least, you have got NPAT, SCT and CUET examination. Where do you get these questions from? So lots of vocabulary, a lot many vocab comes here. Then you have grammar intensive, so a lot of questions of grammar, parajumbles, basic RCs, verbal reasoning and so on. So again, these questions, these are the questions that form a part of these examinations. Now at a very brief level, just understand one thing, that most of these examinations, when you talk about IPMAT Indore, you talk about IPMAT Rohtak, JIPMAT or other examinations, all of these can be condensed into the 4 broad areas that I talked about. So you will definitely have vocabulary questions, grammar questions, RC questions and critical reasoning questions, right? So as far as in terms of the entire thing, which is when you prepare for IPMAT, just keep in mind, as far as VARC is concerned, these are the 4 broad areas that you will have to deal with, and I'm sure with consistent practice, so if you just make sure that your most of these topics are taken care of, you are also practicing questions and you are making it sure that you get all your concepts clear, no matter how, what is the way of preparing for the examination. These are the 4 areas that we are looking for as far as VARC syllabus is concerned. So that was all from my side for today's video. Now just make it sure that you watch this video from the start till the end, so you have an idea what are the topics in VARC that you have to deal with, along with what is the focus of each IPMAT examination that you are targeting. So thank you so much. Have a good day.